Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of Intuitive Angling, and really appreciate you guys checking out the video today and spending some time with me. Really appreciate that. And guys, got what I consider an extremely important video today. We're going to be talking about what we can do to make bass fishing great again, because bass fishing right now in 2024 is not as great as it used to be. It's going downhill every year. I sort of want to call that out a little bit. So I've actually written down a list of 4 or 5 things here that are, sort of come to the top of my mind about things we can do to turn it around. Going to go over that in today's video, and of course I'd be curious to get your guys' opinion on that as well. Also, guys, just a big thank you out there. Just wanted to extend a thank you to everybody that's taken time to hit that subscribe button here to Intuitive Angling. Big thank you out there to everybody that's been purchasing your tackle and all your fishing gear needs through using my tackle warehouse link I put in the description. I know you guys are sick and tired of me hearing that, but I just want you to know how important that is to keeping the channel on YouTube here. So thank you very much from me and my family if you're one of the participants in that. Okay, guys, I've been wanting to do this video for a little bit. One of the things that you're going to notice as you get older as an angler, you go through a transition. It's like when you're a young angler, all you care about yourself. You care about becoming a better fisherman. It's what you can do to improve yourself more and more and more. And as you spend more decades decades fishing, you transition to the point of where you start thinking about leaving something for the next generation. And that's where usually that occurs, about when you hit the age of 50, you start making that transition a little bit. And guys, I can tell you right now, I've been in the sport since the 70s, bass fishing. I've fished professionally since 1985. Been there, done that, been all over the country. I've been fortunate enough to fish lakes all across the country, all across the world, as a matter of fact. And I can tell you right now that we are in trouble right now. The bass fishing, the quality of bass fishing in the United States right now is at an all-time low. And it's masked a little bit. Don't let the fact that technology has created the live scope technology, it's created this illusion that we're maintaining our fisheries, or even some of them are getting better. That's not the case, guys. If you take that technology out of the equation and reverse the technology we have in the sport back 10 years, you'll see a reality of what's going on in our fisheries out there, and it's not good. Fishing right now is tougher than it's ever been across the countries, all the lakes across the countries. More fishing pressure. We have a lot of challenges ahead of us. And there's a saying out there, you guys, I'm sure you've heard of it, about evil flourishes when good men do nothing. And I'm not equating this to evil, but I'm equating it to things go downhill in a hurry if good men do nothing. And if they get apathetic to it and they start focusing on themselves and what's in it for them rather than focusing on what they're going to hand off to the next generation. So anyway, I've got a couple things down here I want to talk about. So we're going to go into what I consider that we can do to make bass fishing great again and create a sustainable sport to hand off to the next generation. Now, the first one I'm going to talk about is you don't hear people talking about it, because most people tune out when you talk about it. When you talk about environmental challenges to our waters out there, if you talk about any environmental issue, the majority of the people are apathetic environmentally because they don't feel that it affects them. If they can't see it, they don't feel like they can affect it. A prime example is mercury contamination in our waters. Guys, every lake in this country, in the United States, has mercury contamination to some extent in our waters. Most of it from different type of emissions, coal-fired power plants. There's a lot of different stuff that contribute to that. And there's usually warnings about consuming a certain amount of fish from a lake to some extent. Every lake's different with that. Most people, that goes in one ear and out the other because they can't see it. I've talked to people, guys, I've been at a launch ramp, and there's a sign that says, the state suggests you don't consume over 1 meal of fish per month or whatever due to the mercury contamination. And most people just think that, oh, that's just a bunch of crap. I'm not going to listen to that, because they can't see it. There's an apathy that goes on there. So the first thing that we can do to make fishing great again and sustainable for the future is we have to become strong environmental advocates for protecting our air and water in the United States here. The first way that you do that is through legislation, the only way to do that. And we have an election coming up, guys, and the best thing you can do, I'm telling you right now, if you're concerned about the well-being of the future water quality issues and fishing that you're going to have in the future or for your grandkids, before you cast a vote, take whatever, I don't care, it doesn't make any difference to me what party you're in. I could care less on that. It's about the individual person running. You can look up their name and you can find their voting record that they've had in the past on environmental issues. All you have to do is Google your whatever politician you want to vote for, Google environmental voting records on there. It'll pull up some statistics and it'll show you how supportive or unsupportive that they have been in efforts to strengthen environmental regulations that protect our water quality of the lakes and rivers that you fish in. Now, this has everything to do with, it could have something to do with, like, if you guys live in Florida, all the herbicides and the chemicals they spray to kill the grass in the lakes. Any lake that you have, all the abuse that we've seen on herbicide and chemical spraying. It could be different point source pollutions. For example, down at Grand Lake in Oklahoma, there's been all those chicken plants down there. They've been fined 100 times for dumping a bunch of chicken crap and effluent into Grand Lake before. And as far as what the penalties that those have, those companies that pollute have, are dependent upon the environmental legislations affecting the water quality. And the legislation affecting that is voted upon by whether it be your local, elected officials, Congress people, senators, whatever. But regardless, look at those voting records out there, guys. And if you want to do yourself a favor, and if you want to do your grandkids a favor, you vote for those people out there that vote and support strong environmental legislation for our air and water quality. And if you have somebody out there that you like, say for example, you have a politician out there that you really like, but they vote against the fishermen's best interest as far as protecting the air and water quality, send them an email and say, look, I like your policies or whatever, but you've got to change your attitude and you've got to change your vote on this environmental legislation here, because I want to make sure that we have clean air and clean water and protected, for the future generations. And right now, guys, make no mistake about it. You can look up there. There is a concerted effort to deregulate and make it easier for these companies to pollute. There are politicians they're basically trying to greenwash this, but if you look at the reality of it, there's a concerted effort to try to deregulate, to basically give these companies the green light to pollute, because it saves them money not having to have these regulations in place. That's the number one thing out there. This is not a political issue. All you dudes out there they're going to try to send me some type of a political, just attack some type of a political side. This doesn't have crap to do with politics. It has to do with doing the right thing and making sure we have a sustainable planet and clean air and water to live on this planet. Okay, the next thing we have to do, guys, and this is out of 4 or 5 different things I'm going to talk about here, is we have got to address this technology explosion. If we want to make fishing great again, technology is a direct threat to the sustainability of our fisheries out there, because the more this technology advances, and guys, if you followed ICAST this past week, the big fishing tackle manufacturers show down there, it would make you sick as far as the new technology that's coming out in bass fishing that's going to even put more pressure on the fish than they've ever been before. If we're going to make fishing great again, we have got to roll back technology. And this talking point that's like, Randy, you can't stop technology, the genie's out of the bottle, keep up with the times, Grandpa, you're going to get left behind. Guys, that's the biggest bunch of crap in the world. We have got to be responsible stewards of this planet. We've got to be responsible stewards of the sport. And how we do that is we have to roll back technology to make bass fishing simpler again. Because one of the biggest reasons why bass fishing has started to go downhill the last couple of years is we continue to lose the mystery of it. You cannot, I don't care what you think about bass fishing in general, or your opinion on it, one of the most important aspects of bass fishing, and when it was great, back when it was really great, back in the 80s and early 90s, you had a tremendous amount of mystery that was out there. You didn't know what was out there. You didn't know what was swimming out there in the middle of the lake. You didn't know if there was a school of 100 bass next to that drop-off that you could see with your side imaging. We have got to roll back technology in this sport to where we maintain that mystery and the magic of the sport, and make it where the anglers are not as efficient as catching every single fish in the lake. Because right now, with technology the way that is advancing, fishing is not fishing anymore. It's becoming a commercial venture. It's like when you have a technology that you can put your boat in the water, and you say you're going to go fishing, and you got $50,000-$60,000 worth of electronics on your boat, you're not going fishing. You're basically going out there to do some commercial catching is what you're trying to do. It's no different than if you had a gill net or dynamite. It's the same type of a thing. People say, well, you can't make them bite, Randy, just because you can see them on live scope. Well, you couldn't make them bite if you didn't know they were there. You wouldn't have caught them anyway. And the technology is the only thing that's allowing you to see that those fish are there. And you don't need to know that those fish are there. That's the whole point of it. That's the point where some people they can't wrap it around their mind, is the critical element involved that you do not want to, and you do not need to know everything about bass fishing, because when you do that, you take away that mystery and the magic of it, and you put pressure on a segment of the fish that are out there living in their offshore deep water sanctuaries that need that protection. Those fish that are out there that everybody's live scoping with, we've talked about this before, I just want to reiterate it here. Those fish that are out there roaming in deeper water, that these guys are getting out in the middle of the lake and they're roaming out there with their live scope, those fish need that water out there. They need to be able to get away from the fishing pressure, simply because that fishing pressure, it has increased to an amount that we see right now where it's almost unsustainable. Because when you have an increase and have this many more anglers out on the water that have this access to technology, and they're all getting better with that technology, and the technology gets better every single year because the electronic companies are so greedy that they feel like they have to have something new every single year that's better and better and better. That is an unsustainable model as far as for the long-term sustainability of the fishery. And it's one of those things that's making fishing suck right now, big time. So that's the second one. Okay, the third one, guys, is we have got to start regulating tournaments, bass fishing tournaments. And guys, don't call me a hypocrite. I know I've been in the middle of tournaments forever, but I've been a big advocate for the last 30 years that we need some type of a governing agency that regulates tournaments where we don't have too many tournaments on a body of water at the same time. Any lake across the country that is a big bass fishing impoundment, I don't care if it's Table Rock Lake here in Missouri or Lake Gunnersville or whatever, you have this freaking unlimited amount of bass tournaments every single weekend. There could be 8 or 10 tournaments on one lake on one weekend. We've got to start forming some type of an agency that spreads these events out throughout the course of the year, and that these tournament organizations have to apply for these permits, and they have to provide, extensive details on the number of participants in the tournament, and they need to be staggered out where all these tournaments are not on top of each other, and it has to be where the number of tournaments is not affecting the quality of fishing in a lake. And right now, guys, bass tournaments, a lot of them are fish kills. We talked about this over and over and over. And if you got more tournaments out there killing more fish, you got more people better catching them because of live scope and are eating them and cleaning them, again, that is not a sustainable model. So we have got to spread these tournaments out at least throughout different times of the year. We have to take the tournaments away from the spawning season. Yeah, bass spawn at they don't all spawn at one time, but I've never seen any lake in the country I've ever been to where the majority of the bass do not spawn except during like a 3-week window is when most of those fish will spawn. And that's the period. There can be 1 month out of the year. The state game and fisheries, they can determine the number 1 month out there where the majority of the bass spawn, and they can just say, hey guys, we will not allow tournaments on this lake during this month because this is when these fish need to spawn undisturbed. Tournaments need to be regulated. We have to quit putting them on top of the spawn is going to be a real big deal. And finally, guys, last thing we can do to make bass fishing great again is we have to really beef up our efforts to increase habitat in the lakes we have. And I don't mean by just collecting a bunch of Christmas trees and dumping them in the lake. our lakes are aging across the country, and as these lakes age and you get siltation in the lake and the cover deteriorates, you have a lot of challenges with habitat. So we have got to make concerted efforts with the state fisheries managements to really have a super strong habitat management. And part of that habitat includes hard structure like rock, it includes brush, it includes maybe some type of the dredging, for places that are silted. It involves planting aquatic habitat. And this is another thing that you can do with your lawmakers, guys. Aquatic habitat, aquatic vegetation is the #1 habitat for bass. It's the #1, it provides more cover for bait fish and minnows. It's the best. Every lake, the greatest lakes in this country have some type of aquatic vegetation. And we got to start putting politicians in positions of power that do not let these chemical companies and the lobbyists from these chemical companies come into these bodies of water and kill all the vegetation because you've got a couple powerful homeowners that don't want some grass growing up around their boat dock. That's usually what happens. Usually you've got some well-connected people that are loaded with money that have a house on the lake and they don't want to see a little bit of hydrilla growing up around their boat dock. So they call some freaking, herbicide company that's connected with the chemical companies. The next thing you know, you got this big airboat spraying, killing everything, killing fish, polluting the water and everything. We have got to start increasing the amount of aquatic vegetation in the lake, hard structure like rock structures, concrete, permanent type structures. The more that you do that, the more that you provide habitat for any body of water, the better the fishing is going to be in the long term. So all that stuff works together, guys. Again, we have got to strengthen our environmental regulations for our water quality. We got to increase habitat. We got to, roll back technology and not make us as efficient as catching fish. And we just have to become more responsible stewards right now because right now, guys, we suck as stewards. The bass fishing industry right now, including the tournament organizations, guys, back in the 70s, Ray Scott was on top of all of the efforts. He lobbied Congress all the time to strengthen our air and water quality. You don't see that anymore. It's like we suck as environmental stewards for the sport of bass fishing right now. And we got to have some adults in the room that take this seriously, because if we don't, we're going to be looked back in the next 20 years as the biggest villains that this sport has ever seen, simply because our own greed and our own apathy and our own, just ignoring, the reality of the situation when it's put right in front of us. So anyway, guys, that's my opinions. That's how you make fishing great again. And make no mistake about it, bass fishing right now sucks across the country. I have seen a precipitous decline in the quality of bass fishing over the past 5 years in the United States. And I see it and I hear it from everyone out there, unless you're a live scoper that does nothing but fish for fish that need to be protected out there. You have seen a precipitous decline in the quality of fishing in this country for the reasons I talk about, the water quality issues, the overfishing, the too many tournaments. And we have got to make some hard choices right now. We have got to stop thinking about ourselves. And every one of these people, guys, that I talk to that are against what I just told you about, that are against stronger regulations environmentally, that are against taking technology away, that are against reducing tournaments, it's all about what's in it for them. It's selfishness. They don't look for the future generations, what their actions are going to do for that. So anyway, guys, I love this sport, man. I love this sport with every cell in my being, and I hate to see what's happening to it right now. We have got to start making some hard decisions and doing the right thing. So let me know what you guys think. Talk later.